Get ready.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of the Play to Win podcast. My name is Tyler. I'm your host this week, and I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Keiran, as always. What is going on, my man?
It's going pretty good. I've had a very, very, very busy week for the episode that went live today.
Yes.
And I am very happy that I no longer have to edit that.
Yes, everybody, as of today, when we are recording Saturday, June 5th, the E3 2021 predictions episode is up. We apologize for the delay. We meant for it to be out earlier in the week, but as Keiran said, took a bit of time. Took a bit of time for that edit to come together. Whether there's computer issues and just the length of the episode and everything, it took way more time than expected. But the episode is up now. So if you have not listened to that episode, go give it a listen. We were joined by Gameaholic Podcast, fantastic guests to have on the show. We had a really fun conversation with them, going over our predictions for each of the big companies that are going to be doing showcases, whether it be at E3 or at some point during this whole summer game fest palooza, whatever you want to call it. It was a fun time. Definitely go give their podcast a listen. We said where you could follow them and find them and everything in that episode. So go listen to that episode. It's a good one. Especially because we might end up talking about some of that stuff from that episode in this one, maybe, who knows. But yes, that's why Keiran is so exhausted. Took him some time. It's finally done. And from here on in, this episode will be much easier for him to edit than that last one.
100%.
And I'm sure he's very happy about that. It won't take him, like almost a whole week to get it done.
Yeah, no, it was like, I enjoy editing. But that was a lot.
Yeah. It seemed like it was. If you follow us on Instagram, as you should, at Play to Win Game, you also posted a production update picture. It was just like, this set is beating me up bad. So yeah, it was a journey. But Keiran, we do thank you. We appreciate you for your hard work. Episode was a good one. So go give that a watch. And speaking of, promoting stuff, follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at Play to Win Game, where, as I just said, you get updates on the show, production updates. We'll also tweet out other things and what so have you. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, Play to Win. Subscribe to us on YouTube, turn on notifications so that you'll know when videos go up, so you can be one of the first people to watch the videos. The last video that went up this past Friday, I posted a video talking about PlayStation's cross-gen situation that we're going to talk about again in today's episode, me and Keiran. But I just offered my thoughts on it in this past Friday's video. So go give that a watch if you have not already. Prior to that one, Keiran posted his video talking about his top 5 games on Xbox Game Pass for the month of May. So be sure to give that one a watch too. If you are just looking for new games to play on Game Pass that you haven't given a try yet, that you don't know about, you want some recommendations, there's some good recommendations. So go give that video a watch. And, go watch our reviews, previews, all our other videos. We got lots of stuff over there on the YouTube channel. So be sure to give all our content a watch. Share it. Spread the love. We greatly appreciate it. With all that being said, though, also, wait, actually, I forgot. One more thing. Keiran, you want to talk about this next little bit here on the doc right after that?
Sure. Just want to very briefly mention that I and potentially Tyler's schedule permitting will be co-streaming most of the main events for E3 this year. So Ubisoft, Microsoft, EA, whoever. Once all of the times and dates and things, the dates have been confirmed, but once all the times have been confirmed, I will make up a full schedule and put that on Instagram, and I'll send it to Tyler to put on Twitter. You can follow us on at twitch.tv/playtowingame is our Twitch channel, which is where I will be co-streaming it. And looking forward to seeing you all for some E3 talk.
Fun stuff coming around. You excited for that, Keiran?
I am, yeah. No, I mean, I've said it a couple of times. E3 is my favorite time of the year, and I am very, very excited for E3 this year.
As am I. on that predictions episode, everyone made me feel like an oldie though, like an old head, because of how long I've been watching E3 compared to everyone else. I was just like,
Mm.
oh man, it just felt so weird. I felt so seen, just like, I feel like ancient, although I'm not. I'm only 25. My gosh. Um, but yeah, that's all the plugging and housekeeping stuff we have to do this week. On today's episode of the Play to Win podcast, we're going to be talking about the full E3 2021 schedule. The ESA has put it out there, it's on their website. So we'll talk about that real briefly. We won't have too much to say about it, really, but we just want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Like I said before, we got some PlayStation news this week. A good chunk of things to talk about. So we're going to talk about that stuff. And then we'll round out the conversation by talking about Far Cry 6 and its politics, it being a political game. It's been a controversy. We'll talk about that when we get down there. But we have a couple brief mentions to get through first. So let's go ahead and speed on through those. First up being that Final Fantasy VII Remake, the save transfer update is now available for those who are planning to get Final Fantasy VII Remake integrated on PS5. So if you're planning to get it and you want to have your saves all ready for when Integrate comes out on Thursday, June 10th, go ahead, download that update. I haven't done it yet, but for what I've read and what I've seen, you need to go into the PS4 version of the game and then choose your save and manually upload it. And then when you get Integrate, you go into Integrate, and then if I'm right, you do like a download save thing. It's a bit of a process. Doesn't seem too complicated though. So that's out there. Go ahead, download that. So you're already ready. You don't have to waste time doing it on June 10th when Integrate comes out. Then we got confirmation finally that the Crysis Remastered Trilogy is coming later this year. It's going to have Crysis 1, 2, and 3 all in a bundle, or you can get each of them on their own piecemeal if you so choose. I'm very excited about this, mainly because it's Crysis 2 that's going to be coming back in modern day, and I really like that game. So excited to play that. And also, I like when I think about it in hindsight, I really wonder how well Crysis 2 ran on PS3. Because like in hindsight, I feel like it was fine, but I'm sure if I played it now, I'd be like, "Ooh, man, these frame drops over here, not the best." So I wonder how it's gonna play, running on my PS5. I mean, I'm sure like through backwards compatibility and all, but I'm excited for that. Super excited for that.
Yeah, same. I'm a big Crysis fan, so I'm definitely gonna be picking that up when it comes out.
Yeah, and like I might only get 2 and 3. I don't know if I'll get 1. Because again, I like 1, but I don't have the same fondness for it that I do for 2, or 3, even though I like 3 less than 2. But I might get the whole trilogy just so I could play through all those games. There's so much fun. It's so much fun, like being cloaked and then like sneaking up behind enemies and either choking them out or like being cloaked from a distance and then decloaking and then popping someone from a distance and then going cloaked again. That way, because when you're cloaked, if you shoot your weapon while cloaked, you automatically run out of it. It like automatically goes away. But if you decloak, shoot, and then cloak again, you don't run out of your energy. Like, so much fun, man. So much fun. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got official announcement that the new Battlefield is going to be announced on Wednesday, June 9th. We'll be seeing it. Well, not announced, but revealed, I guess we could say. We'll be getting our first look at the game this coming Wednesday. If I'm right, I think I've heard that part of the teaser trailer has leaked, more has leaked than previously before, like in the past few days. So if you've seen stuff about it already, you're probably more in the know than I am because I haven't seen anything from it yet. I want to go into this completely blind. Very excited for this announcement, though. Very excited for this reveal. And you could bet we'll definitely probably be talking about this next week on the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few more here. Watch Dogs Legion, the Legion of the Dead DLC has been announced. I don't know too much about this. I've seen a few pictures. I haven't seen like any footage of it yet, but it looks like there's basically a whole zombie like type survival mode with like missions and everything that's being added to Watch Dogs Legion. Based on what I read, it's like you and like a couple, I think up to 4 people, you all are like going on hacking missions across London, but you got to deal with like zombies at the same time. It seems like a really just weird, wacky concept, but it seems like it could be fun and pretty cool. Am I going to play it? Probably not, because I think I deleted Watch Dogs Legion off my console, and I'm not putting it back on there just
Yeah.
for that. But it is a cool new addition. It's it's something fun. So be on the lookout for that. I imagine maybe we'll see more about it during E3. Maybe, who knows?
Most likely.
Honestly, if not like actual footage during the showcase, probably gameplay at some point in time, like previews and all. We'll see. Um, Now we got two updates for the month of June to go over for both console makers. Um, and one of them is actually, it's Xbox Game Pass for June 2021. And good stuff here, Karen. Stuff for you to smile about, unlike
Yeah.
with games of gold and everything. So coming to Xbox Game Pass in June are The Wild at Heart. It's an ID Xbox game. This is available through the cloud. It says here. I'm reading on Xbox Wire. It says this one's available through the cloud, and it's already available as of now. This one's been available since June 1st.
Yep.
Then we have For Honor coming to cloud and console. This one is available as of now too. It's been available since June 3rd. Next up, we have Backbone coming to Game Pass for PC. This is an ID at Xbox game. It is coming to Game Pass on June 8th. I have seen people talking about this game recently, actually, and just the idea, the concept of it seems really cool. And I'm looking forward to whenever this like comes to more platforms. It's basically like, I'm going to read the description here that they have on Xbox Wire. It says, Raccoon detective Howard Loader is not a hero. He can barely make rent, and yet he has stumbled across something so massive that it will shake the very fabric of society. Stunning visuals, an evocative soundtrack, and a daring narrative bring a dystopian Vancouver, BC, inhabited by animals to life in this highly anticipated post-war adventure. Get to it, detective. It seems really cool. Like I said, I've seen like snippets of gameplay for it. The visuals look really cool and interesting. So hopefully this game comes to like PS4 or Switch. That way I can give it a try because I really like the way this game looks. Game Pass owners on PC, got something cool coming towards your way. And then the last new game coming to Game Pass this month, as of now, Darkest Dungeon coming to cloud, console, and PC on June 10th. Exciting stuff there. And then we have, let's skip it on down to what's leaving Game Pass this month. On June 15th, we have a couple games leaving Game Pass. We have Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown for console leaving, Night's Call, which is available through cloud, console, and PC, West of Dead on cloud, console, and PC, Wizard of Legend, Wizard of Legend, and then Observation, both of those cloud, console, and PC. All of these games leaving Game Pass on June 15th. So be sure to wrap them up, get to them before they are out the service. Karen, you excited about any of these games? Looking forward to any of them?
I mean, personally, not really. I mean, I might look into that Backbone game. Actually, I haven't seen anything for it so far, but I just quickly looked up a couple of pictures. It looks actually pretty good, so I might look into that. But other than that, like I have played For Honor before and was just like really awful at it. So probably not picking up For Honor, but I mean, I'll not for sure better than what we're getting for games with gold. So
I mean, this is where the money's going. Game Pass is where all the money's going, clearly. So yeah, exciting stuff over there. Then we also have the PlayStation Now games for June 2021 announced as well. We have The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Game of the Year Edition coming to the service, and it will be here until September 6th of this year. And the Game of the Year Edition, includes all the DLCs and stuff. Yeah. And it's funny, when I saw this, I was like, man, I think this prediction kind of like shoots not this prediction. This announcement shoots one of my E3 predictions in the foot.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. But you know what? Like, it's still cool. And I think it could still happen. One of the predictions I had. For those who, I'll say this one specifically. One of the E3 predictions I had is that we're going to get more games on the PS Plus collection for PS5, and that Witcher 3 would be one of them. this possibly shoots that in the foot, but I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll come to the service at some point later on
Yeah.
in the year if more games get added to the service, of course. Uh then we also got Team Sonic Racing, Sonic Mania, and Sonic Forces all coming to PlayStation Now as well. These were all announced, if I'm correct, during the Sonic Central stream. I think that's when they were announced initially. But if not, still, it's all celebrating Sonic's 30th anniversary. Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown is coming to the service too. This was announced when the PS Plus games for the month were announced. So, also very cool and exciting. Slay the Spire is coming to PlayStation Now and will be available until December 6th. So, got a while to play that one. And then Car Mechanic Simulator is also coming to the service. Very cool games here. I think this is
Yeah.
a nice lineup for June. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt being obviously the headliner here, a
Mhm.
big headliner for sure. And again, like I said when I made the prediction, like I predicted that it was going to come to the PS Plus collection as a sign that like, hey, they're working towards bettering their relationship, Sony and CD Projekt Red. It being on PlayStation Now, it's still I still feel like it's a sign that they're working towards bettering their
Yeah.
relationship and things not getting like painted over, but like the band-aids starting to get put down, the bridge is starting to be
Mhm.
rebuilt and everything like that. So still really cool stuff overall. And the final brief mention here, which will lead directly into our first news story, is that there are major E3 2021 leaks out in the wild right now. I'm not talking about the Final Fantasy Origin thing that we talked about before. I mean, like full-on show lineups have been
Yep.
released and revealed and stuff. We're not going to talk about what the specific ones are, but stuff that 2K is going to be having at their show has been leaked for real. Something that Square Enix, not the Final Fantasy thing, but something else that Square Enix has, that's kind of been leaked out there as to being in the show. So if you have not seen these leaks yet, you consider yourself lucky because they have like been straight up headlines of
Yeah.
articles.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay completely blind, unknown about what's going on for E3 and just be totally surprised, be very cautious on the internet these next couple days. You don't got much time left. We're almost there to E3, but be very careful, be very vigilant, and don't spoil the surprises for people that don't know about them. Unless they want to know, don't spoil them. Be careful, be considerate, please. And thank you very much. We would very much appreciate that. Be kind to everybody.
Yeah. I was scrolling through Reddit the other day, and maybe yesterday, I can't remember, but I found like somebody just posted like a list of everything that 2K has.
Man, I haven't seen that list. I have read about, well, I haven't seen read directly about it, but I've seen headlines about two things that 2K has.
Yeah.
And exciting things for sure, but I wish I didn't
Yeah,
know about them right
definitely.
now. I wish the surprise was saved for me, but it is what it is. It happens. But like I said, it's going to lead right into our first news story of the episode, that being the E3 2021 schedule has been fully revealed. The ESA put it out earlier this week. So I'm going to look at their schedule and I'm going to also just bounce back to what I have in our doc because E3, they have like what events are going to be or like taking place on certain days, but they don't have like times for everything. So everything kicks off on Saturday, June 12th. They say here with a pre-show broadcast that starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. On Saturday, June 12th, Ubisoft will have the Ubisoft Forward at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time, where we could expect, I would not be surprised if we see, stuff for Assassin's Creed, stuff for The Division, so on and so forth, and other surprises as well. So we got that to look forward to on Saturday. Also Saturday, June 12th, Gearbox Entertainment, they're gonna show off some stuff. Probably the one thing that got leaked. Probably some other stuff too. But that's happening Saturday, June 12th. And there's also going to be a session with GamesBeat as well on Saturday, June 12th. Sunday, June 13th, There is going to be a pre-show broadcast that starts at 8:45 a.m. Pacific time, 11:45 a.m. Eastern time. And the first real true, well, I don't want to say real true because Ubisoft's always a big one. They always have a big press conference. But the one that everyone's really been waiting for is the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase. That is happening Sunday, June 13th, my mistake, at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Very much looking forward to this. We know nothing about what's going to be there aside from Halo, obviously. Starfield will be there. And I actually saw a recent era thread, like the title of a thread about what's going to be there for Halo. And while none of it surprised me, I wish I didn't see that headline, like the thread title. But again, none of it was really surprising. I figured it'd be there. Although there was one thing about it. It had a release date, and I was like, I don't see that being true.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree. No way.
I mean, again, would it be cool? That'd be cool if it came out at that time.
I mean, sure.
But I don't think. I think it's like just a little bit farther back. I think it's more in the window that we kind of imagine. I don't think it's like that soon. But yes, Microsoft's thing, Sunday, June 13th. Get excited for that. Also, Sunday, June 13th, shortly after Microsoft's show is done, we have Square Enix. Square Enix is doing their show at 12:15 Pacific time, 3:15 Eastern time on Sunday, June 13th. And Square Enix, they actually tweeted out hey, heads up, this is what we're going to be showing here during our show. They say here that there's going to be a world premiere of a new game from Eidos Montreal. This is kind of what got leaked. So if you don't know, you're cool. Yeah. If not, I mean, if you have been spoiled on it, you know what I'm talking about. We're going to get an update on Babylon's Fall. We're going to be getting new details about the Black Panther expansion for Marvel's Avengers and some updates on other in-game events that are going to be coming down the line. They say we're going to get a deep dive on Life is Strange True Colors. Yes. And a new look at a Life is Strange Remastered collection, which I probably won't play, but I am excited to see what that looks like and all. But they do say also, like, that's not just what's there. There's other stuff that's going to be at the showcase, but they want to keep it all like under wraps. They want to keep it as a surprise so that when we see the show, we're like, oh shoot, this is here. So while Final Fantasy 16 and Forspoken are not here on this, what to expect from their Square Enix event thing, does not necessarily mean that they're not at the show. So you never know. Still, be excited for that. The ESA also has here for Sunday, June 13th, there's going to be a PC gaming show and the Future Game Show that same day as well. And Back for Blood from Warner Brother Games and 24 Entertainment is also going to be featured as well on Sunday, but they don't have any times for those things here.
No.
Monday, June 14th, is going to be a pre-show broadcast starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And a bunch of indie devs are going to have presentations and press conferences. There's going to be stuff from Mythical Games, Freedom Games, Razer, Capcom. And there's also going to be a diversity, equity, and inclusion panel discussion from Take-Two Interactive happening that day as well. And the Verizon and Intellivision are also going to be featured. And there's also going to be a session with Vin. Interesting stuff here on this Monday. Nothing too big like the prior days, but still some interesting stuff here. And then rounding out E3, Tuesday, June 15th, the broadcast pre-show starts at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And this day is when we are getting the Nintendo E3 Direct and Nintendo Treehouse Live. The Nintendo Direct starts at 12 p.m. Mixing up my times, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then following that is going to be a couple hours of the Treehouse Live Direct. And Nintendo gave a heads up as well for their E3 Direct. They said that on their Twitter, they said, tune in for a Nintendo Direct with roughly 40 minutes of info focused exclusively on Nintendo Switch software, mostly releasing in 2021, followed by around 3 hours of gameplay in Nintendo Treehouse Live. So what this is saying is, do not expect a Switch Pro announcement at their Nintendo Direct. If it
Yeah.
hasn't happened before the Direct, don't expect it during the Direct. Maybe it'll come after, maybe sometime later in the year. But if it doesn't happen before, don't expect it there. I'm looking forward to this a lot. I wonder what's
Yeah.
going to be here. It should be a very exciting show. I'm fingers crossed for Sora and Smash forever and always. Forever and always. Fingers crossed for that. So yes, that is happening on Tuesday. And then also here on E3's page, they say that Bandai Namco, Eureka Games, and GameSpot are also going to have events happening this on Tuesday. And then the Tuesday is going to completely wrap up with a official E3 2021 awards show, which is all cool stuff. Deep Silver is also going to be having like a type of broadcast going on during E3. Well, their parent company, Koch Media, is going to have a announcement stuff on June 11th as part of Summer Games Fest. But Deep Silver made sure to get ahead of everyone and said, hey, Dead Island, Saints Row, Metro, and Time Splitters will not be there or at any other E3 2021 event. So if you were expecting a Saints Row 5, Dead Island 2 to return, something for Metro, I don't know if anyone was expecting something for Time Splitters since they just got announced like a few weeks ago. Not even a few weeks ago, like what, a week, 2 weeks ago? Don't expect any of that stuff there.
No.
They were very smart to set expectations and say all these cool things you really want to see are not there. So disappointing, but at least they gave everyone a heads up. Exciting stuff for E3. I'm really looking forward to it this year.
Yeah, no, me as well. I'm, like I say, favorite week of the year. I'm sad we're not going to see anything from Saints Row or Metro. I really enjoy those two series. But I mean, if they're not ready to show anything, not ready to show anything. And I mentioned this on the E3 episode. I am utterly devastated we are not seeing Hollow Knight Silk Song at Nintendo's Direct, because if it was going to be anywhere, it would be there. But Team Cherry came out and said we're not going to be E3. So I am so upset that we won't be seeing Silk Song E3.
Well, I wonder. They said it not at E3, but did they say anything about Summer Game Fest at all?
I don't think so. I think they just said E3.
Because I mean, if it's not at E3, possibly at Summer Games Fest.
Oh, please.
Possibly. I mean, they're two separate events. Maybe when they say E3 though, maybe they're also including Summer Games Fest like in that as well, since they're all happening at the same time. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give you hope. I'm trying to give you and all the Hollow Knight fans some hope to cling on to, because I know that you all have been waiting for this game for so long, and it's just been like years of silence. So I'm trying to give you guys something.
Yeah, no, I really hope, because I'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I've been playing a lot of Hollow Knight recently, and it's such a masterpiece.
Yeah, I still got to play it myself. It's in my PlayStation Plus library.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, I will get to it. I thought about downloading it like a few weeks ago, but then I decided, no, let me not do that. Want to try and get through some other games on my backlog first. But I will do it. That is a promise. I'm promising it to do it. I'm not promising a time frame, but I promise to do it. Don't hold me to anything. Next up, though, we have some PlayStation news to talk about. Earlier this week, Herman Holst, head of Worldwide Studios over there, PlayStation Studios. Well, I don't know why I said Worldwide. Just head of PlayStation Studios over there. Did a Q&A over on the PlayStation blog, talking about where PlayStation is now, the future of PlayStation, what plans are, what things look like, and a number of little nuggets came out of this Q&A session. So we're gonna go down bit by bit till we get to the final two that are the biggest two. They go hand in hand with each other. First up is official confirmation and announcement that Sony Bend is officially working on a brand new IP. We kind of talked about this a few months ago, actually, when the whole Bloomberg report came out about Sony and they're focusing more so on big blockbuster titles, and how Sony Bend was how they had a Days Gone pitch for a sequel, but the sequel pitch was rejected. So then they were asked to go help Naughty Dog or help some company, help one of the studios on an Uncharted game, and they asked to be taken off of it because they didn't want to be, you know, another Uncharted helper and all like that.
Yeah.
So then they were reportedly working on the new IP. This is the first official confirmation of that. Um, Scrolling down here, there's a part in the Q&A session where Herman Hulse is asked, how important is new IP to PlayStation Studios? And he says here, I'll just read his whole quote. He says, quote, new IP is incredibly important to us. New IP is the lifeblood of gaming, but new IP is just one aspect of our strategy. Ultimately, I want PlayStation Studios to be fiercely daring to take risks. I want us to continue to embrace the legacy of PlayStation, pushing the boundaries of gaming, keep making games that matter. The games that probably wouldn't have been made anywhere else. And you know, Ben Studio is working on a very exciting new IP that they're very, very passionate about. They're building on the deep open world systems that they developed with Days Gone. So I'm really happy for Ben Studio. End quote. I imagine we won't see anything for this game for a bit.
No.
Since Days Gone came out in 2019. I think the Bloomberg article said that they kind of just recently started working on a new IP. So
Yeah.
I would be surprised if we see anything about this game even as early as next year. I think I'd be a bit surprised, given, you know, that we're still kind of, I'm sure like there's still work from home. I'm sure that some of them might be in the studio, but I imagine we'll probably see something from this game end of next year at the earliest, maybe.
Yeah.
That seems like a nice timetable for development of the game. But it is exciting that they're working on new IP and that it's building on the systems that they had from Days Gone. Because again, Days Gone was a good game. I liked it. It had some issues for sure, but the open world, I did like the open world. I liked the riding the motorcycle in the open world. The freakers and the horde system that they had with that was just absolutely incredible. It was amazing. It was so much fun. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with a new IP and like building on and evolving the systems they had from that game.
Yeah. When I eventually either get a PS5 or get a better computer that can actually run decent video games, I'm planning on playing Days Gone.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's a long game. Let me tell you that much. It's
Yeah.
long, a bit longer than it should be, honestly. But nonetheless, still a good game, still a fun game. The second bit of PlayStation news that we got here is the formal announcement of Team Asobi as PlayStation's newest internal studio. For those who don't know, Team Asobi is the developer behind the PSVR game Astrobot Rescue Mission, and they're also the developer behind the PS5 pack-in game Astro's Playroom. I have not played Astrobot Rescue Mission because I don't have PSVR, but highly critically acclaimed. Many say it is the best PSVR game out there. I've seen many people say it's honestly one of the best platformers that they've ever played because it's that great, it's that amazing. Astro's Playroom, I have played, and let me tell you, that's a great game. Yes, it is like part tech demo for the for the DualSense and what the PS5 can do, but honestly, it is way more than that in my opinion. And to write it off as just a tech demo is doing the game is like doing it a major service and like it's a major over simplification of that game.
Yeah.
It is just it is really unique and clever with the ways it implements the DualSense features and all, whether it be like the triggers using the triggers as when you're holding down on it. There's a part where you're in like a rocket ship kind of sort of, so you have to like push down on it, and how hard you push on it affects like how much like force comes at thrust. There's that. There's just also the haptic feedback in this, like the way when rain is hitting the controller, when rain is hitting Astro's little umbrella thing, it feels one way, but the rain then turns into hail and it feels heavier and harder. It's so cool what they did with it. But on top of that, like just the levels are designed so well, and the game is filled with so much heart and charm, just with all the different PlayStation references to all the games that have been like synonymous with the PlayStation from the very beginning all the way to now. Like it's clear that like they that they put a lot of heart and passion into that game. And I'm very excited to play whatever they come up with next. Uh Here in the Q&A session, when talking about it, Herman Hulse says, let me see. He's asked about, Japan and how important Japan still is to PlayStation. So I'm going to skip on down here to when he talks about Asobi. He says, quote, and alongside Asobi, well, actually, no, my bad. I've skipped a bit. We actually first mentioned them. He says, Polyphony Digital is such an important part of the PlayStation family, making the best driving simulation games in the world. We're building Team Asobi in Tokyo, a world-class studio that are developing a franchise for all ages with global appeal. Such a creative team. And alongside Asobi, we will continue to maintain and build partnerships through our external development team. So I'm really excited about the future of PlayStation games from Japan and Asia, and I'm grateful for the interest and passionate support for our Japanese teams. End quote. I'm excited for them. Later in the day, Team Asobi, they actually put out their own little statement on the PlayStation blog saying, hey, we're here. We're one of the internal studios now. We got, a new logo, and basically just kind of introduce themselves to the PlayStation family. Because before now, they were like a smaller team inside Sony's Japan studio.
Yeah.
But now they are their own team. Because again, in the Bloomberg article, this was kind of talked about. And I think a bit before the Bloomberg article about how Japan Studio was being reformed and reshaped around Team Asobi. So now they're their own studio. They're getting bigger, more, resources, more budget. I'm looking forward to what they do next.
Yeah, I mean the Astro Bot games look fun. Again, I haven't played either of them, but they certainly look like they're a lot of fun.
They are, man. Like again, if you ever get a PS5, you gotta play Astro's Playroom. Like that needs to be the first thing you play because it comes with your system.
Yeah.
So you play that, and like it shows you the potential of the DualSense. And aside from just the potential of the DualSense, it shows you like how creative that team is when it comes to level design, gameplay, all that stuff. It's just such a fun game. Such a fun game. Now, the two bigger pieces of PlayStation news that were kind of taking over all the headlines when this Q&A session came out are number one, God of War, the new God of War game that people have been calling God of War Ragnarok, has been delayed into next year. I'm going to pause on that for a second. God of War has been delayed to 2022. Keiran, what did you take away from that when you first read that?
I was mainly just like, so it's been delayed into the year that literally everyone thought it was going to come out in anyway.
Basically, basically, like when I read it, I was like, okay, I didn't think it was coming this year anyway. I figured this year was a long shot for that game.
Yeah.
So it coming next year, not a surprise, not a big deal. I think it's, for the best. Let the game,
definitely.
Let the game have the development it needs. And Herman Hulse, when he announced this delay in the Q&A session, he talked about why this ended up happening. So I'll read a bit here about the decision making that led up to it. He says here, quote, perhaps the biggest challenge has been when we need specialist locations, often physical locations, primarily performance capture, audio work. We've come up with some really clever solutions to some of this. We built tiny recording studios in people's houses. But when you're doing performance capture for a lot of cinematics with multiple actors, that's not so simple to solve. So you've got a choice. You could do it later in the schedule, which could cause you problems, or you could risk the final quality by doing it in a different way. But I can tell you, we're not going to risk the quality. We want to ship extremely high quality games, finished games, and we have to do that obviously without pushing our teams to the breaking point. So we have currently two very big, very narrative driven games in development, Horizon Forbidden West and the next God of War. And for both of those, they're frankly affected by access to performance capture and talent. For Horizon, we think we are on track to release this holiday season, but that isn't quite certain yet, and we're working as hard as we can to confirm that to you as soon as we can. And for God of War, the project started a little later, so we've made the decision to push that game out to next year to ensure that Santa Monica Studio can deliver the amazing God of War game that we all want to play. With these things, something's got to give. It cannot be the quality of our titles, and it surely won't be the health or the well-being of our amazing team, end quote. I think that last part is something to highlight and something that needs emphasis. So I'm going to say it again. With these things, something's got to give. It cannot be the quality of our titles, and it surely won't be the health or the well-being of our amazing team. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Saying like, we're not going to make our teams, crunch to death. We're not going to, stress, like overwork them, overstress them out in, already difficult times just to get a game out by a certain deadline, by a certain date. Like we want these games to be of the best quality. We want our teams to be taken care of, and we'll push a game if that needs to be done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm definitely with Sony on that one. It's like you absolutely should not sacrifice the health of anybody just to meet a deadline. So I'm very happy they take that stance on it.
Right. And I think it's also a bit noteworthy that Horizon, they're saying they think it's on track to release this holiday season, but it's not quite certain yet because again, it's also affected by the same development issues and stuff.
Yeah,
So honestly, I've been thinking Horizon would come out this year, but I've also been of the mindset that it could slip to next year too. And if it does, I imagine it would slip to like early next year.
yeah,
But I'm sure that if it does, they're again trying to avoid Breath of the Wild, the sequel. Because what happened last time was Horizon came out, and then like days later, Breath of the Wild came out, and Horizon was just immediately overshadowed. And
yeah.
I'm sure they don't want that to happen again. So, I mean, I don't want that to happen again either. Horizon was an
No,
amazing game. I'm sure the sequel is going to be even more amazing. So, hopefully, it releases this year. But again, if not, take your time, do what you got to do to get the game out when it's done and good and ready to come on out and be released.
yeah. Just after the state of play, I had tweeted saying that I don't think this game is coming out this year, just because of COVID and like I mean, like they were talking about the blog post, like not having access to like performance capture stuff that they would need for that game. Because the one thing that like I was very sure of that Sony is not going to sacrifice is the quality of their game. So I I would don't get me wrong, I would like to see the game come out this year because I like Horizon. It's a very good game, but I don't think it will. But I agree with Tyler. I think it's going to get pushed to maybe like probably February next year.
Maybe, yeah. I was of the mindset before this article came out that we would get a Horizon release date or release window at whenever they have their showcase.
Yeah.
Because this was after they announced the state of play, and I'm like, okay, so we're not going to get a date during the state of play most likely, and we didn't. So I'm like, all right, we're not getting it there. Probably during whatever showcase they do during Summer Game Fest is when we'll get a like an actual release date. But now we see this, and it's like, okay, maybe we won't. Maybe if anything, they'll just say they'll put a year out again, or maybe like a time frame like fall, winter, or something like that. And something that's a bit more flexible, since they're still even not that certain when it's going to come out.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to those games though. God of War
Yeah.
can definitely, take 2022. It'll be the game of 2022.
Yep.
Although before we move to the next one, it does beg the question of if Horizon gets pushed to next year, as of right now, what is Sony's big game for this year? For like the holiday season.
The holiday season?
Exactly. That's the question.
Yeah,
Horizon
I
was
have
kind
no
of
idea.
Horizon was kind of assumed to be that. Like we said before, no one expected God of War to come out this year. So that was never really in consideration. Up till now, it's kind of been Horizon, and if Horizon gets delayed, granted, we don't know whatever else they may have in the works. For all we know, Final Fantasy 16 could come out this holiday season. Granted, that's not first party, but it is a console exclusive, and that would be their big console exclusive to have. But if Horizon doesn't come out, then I guess that just leaves Halo to just take over the holiday season based off what we know so far. I mean, to be honest, maybe that would be the best for Horizon. For the best, I mean, depending on when Horizon was initially going to release anyway. If they're saying the holiday season, I imagine that means no later than November, I would imagine.
No.
So, like, Halo would definitely be out either October or November. And if they release real close to each other, Halo is just going to eat up Horizon. Like, even though Halo has been on the decline in recent years,
Mm.
Halo is still Halo. Like, the name
Yeah.
is still important to Xbox fans. And there's also the fact that it will be launching in a different space than when Halo 5 launched. When Halo 5 launched, you had to go out and buy the game.
Yeah.
Granted, now you don't have to. It's going to be on Game Pass day one, and the multiplayer will be free to play, which means anyone and their mother who has an Xbox will be playing Halo in some way, shape, or form, whether it be the
Yeah.
campaign, through Game Pass, whether it be the multiplayer free to play. Halo's coming with to make a statement. Whether or not the game is good is a different story. Regardless of whether it's good or
Yeah.
not, it's going to eat up a lot of attention. And Horizon, for as much as I love it, it does not have the same panache, the same name weight behind it that Halo does. Even if Horizon does end up being a better game, it just doesn't. And
No.
I'm sure that all the Sony knows this, and they would still probably put Horizon out shortly, like in the Halo timeframe, as like, hey,
Mhm.
this is our heavy hitter. We stand behind it. We believe it. And it's different enough from Halo where it could compete and not get eaten up the way that it did against Breath of the Wild. But I imagine like they will probably want to try and distance them some.
Yeah. I would certainly. Excuse me. I mean, yeah, I would certainly imagine so. Like, I imagine any video game company, if they're releasing a game when another a video game company is releasing another big game at the same time, like it's never going to be good for either of them. So, I mean, as much as they can, I think Sony is going to want to avoid Halo. I don't think they'll do that at the expense of just like delaying the game to avoid Halo.
I I can see that. I can see them maybe pushing it a week or two, so it's not right on top of
Maybe.
Halo.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with Horizon if it comes out this year. Of course, fingers crossed it
Yeah.
does. The game looks awesome. But this final bit of PlayStation news, which is the more controversial one that started up a lot of conversation and anger, is the announcement, the news that God of War and Gran Turismo 7 are both going to be cross generation games. Uh, I'm going to read here what Herman Hulse says about this, and then I want to get your take on this, Kieran, because I already talked about it um, in yesterday's video.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched it yet, but definitely, if you haven't watched the video, go watch it. But let me read this what Herman here has to say. So he's asked, how does PS4 factor into PlayStation Studios' development vision? Is it still a focus internally for future game development? So then Herman says here, quote, it very much is. You can't build a community of over 110 million PS4 owners and then just walk away from it, right? I think that'd be bad news for the fans of PS4 and frankly, not very good for business. Where it makes sense to develop a title for both PS4 and PS5 for Horizon Forbidden West, the next God of War, GT7, we'll continue looking at that. And if PS4 owners want to play the game, then they can. If they want to go on and play the PS5 version, that game will be there for them. That being said, it's also very important to have showpieces for PS5, hence the development of Returnal and Ratchet that are exclusive to PS5. End quote. Kieran, what is your take on this? On God of War and Gran Turismo 7 being cross-gen after it kind of being assumed that God of War be exclusive and it kind of being, I guess, said or announced that Gran Turismo would be PS5 exclusive. I don't know if they
Mm.
officially ever said it, but it really looked like Gran Turismo 7 was going to be PS5 exclusive.
Yeah.
What is your take on all this?
I mean, I haven't watched your video yet. I was planning on doing that later today. Um, just from judging from the title, I definitely agree with you. I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, I mean, sure, it would have been nice to have God of War made exclusively for PlayStation, taking full advantage of that hardware. But at the same time, I mean, like, um, I'm I'm blanking on his name, but the guy who you're reading quotes from,
Herman Hulst.
um, Herman Holst, um, like you can't just walk away from 111 million people that have purchased your product to play your games. Like, and as I mean, you could, but I mean, like you said, it really wouldn't be good for business. So, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think that I know I'm kind of repeat myself here, but I mean, like I say, it would be nice if it was exclusive for PS5, but at the same time, it's like I definitely understand why they are um making it a cross-gen game. I would imagine one of the biggest reasons for that is just like how few people have a PS5 at the moment, just because of like, stock shortages and scalpers and like a lot of people not being able to get their hands on one. So it's like, do you develop your biggest game, like your biggest franchise, for maybe what, 9 million people at most, or do you develop it for 111 million people?
Mhm. Yeah, no, so when I met in my video, which I titled, uh, PlayStation's cross-gen situation, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that big a deal. Um, I looked at it from two sides. There's a side of it where it's you have the PlayStation fans, the PlayStation 5 owners, who they want games that are exclusive to their
Yeah.
platform. They want games that take full advantage of their hardware, that offer them experiences they can't get on PS4 or PS4 Pro. They
Hmm.
want games that that make the purchase feel worth it. They make it seem like, yeah, this is worth the money I spent on it. Especially when last year, which is what's been kind of thrown around a whole lot, been coming back up. When they first revealed the PS5, you had Jim Ryan, PlayStation head, the head of Sony Interactive Entertainment, saying, we believe in generations, which came after Microsoft had said that all of their first party games were going to be cross gen for the next 2 years. I think they said until 2022,
Yeah.
uh, which got a lot of heat. And I was, I was definitely one of those who wasn't fully on board with them making all their games cross gen for the next 2 years. Um, Reason being, and this is where I didn't really mention this in the video, and in hindsight, I should have. I meant to, but I just didn't mention, didn't think about it when I was recording.
Yeah.
Um, the reason I was critical about Microsoft back then, when they said that all their games are going to be cross-gen for the next 2 years, is because of the fact that they said all of their games would be all their
Yeah.
first-party games would be cross-gen for the next 2 years. And I think it's different when some are and some aren't. When some are cross-gen and others aren't, it's like, okay, we have some that are taking advantage of the new hardware, but others that are still being held back by last gen, to accommodate the older console base and install base and all
Yeah.
that. But when all of them are being, cross-gen until 2022, it then becomes a thing of, okay, so for the next 2 years, all the first party games are going to be held back by last gen hardware. And that is like, okay, let's not do that. That kind of sucks. We want the hardware to take full advantage of. We want the games to take full advantage of this new hardware, this new powerful console that you all are saying is the most powerful console ever made.
Yeah.
Put the money where your mouth is when it comes to your games and all like that. Um, and I was even critical about it with Halo, especially after we saw the July. Was it the July? Yes, the
Yeah.
July showing of the game, where they showed the game, and gameplay wise, it looked fun. It looked like Halo. Graphically though, it wasn't all that impressive. Which then led to them saying, "Hey, we got a whole lot of backlash. We're delaying the game a year." And
Yeah.
after the game got delayed a year, it was like, okay, hey, Halo, just drop the last gen version. Drop the last gen version and make it Xbox Series exclusive only. That way, the game can take full advantage of everything. It could be the best game it could possibly be. Uh, and again, I understand why it's not. Just like I said for PS4, for me for PlayStation, I understand why it's not the money side of things. But with a game like Halo, in the place that Halo is currently at too, where like this
Yeah.
Halo game needs to be the one for Halo to actually
Hmm.
come back. I was really critical. I wanted them. I was like, no, like if it's of any of your games needs to be exclusive, it needs to be this one. So you sell your consoles, you sell Game Pass, and then, also the game can be the best it can be. If it's being held back by last gen hardware, it's not able to be the best it can be. And Halo needs a comeback for sure. So that's why I was critical of Microsoft back then. Right now, I'm I'm having a different tune when it comes to PlayStation, not because it's PlayStation, but because, like I said, like the situations are different. Not every single one of their games is being cross-gen.
Yeah.
We have Ratchet, like they said. Returnal, while not an internal first-party studio, it's a first-party game, and it's exclusive to PS5, taking full advantage of the hardware. We don't quite know necessarily what other from games that are coming down the pipeline that are exclusive. But like I said in the video, there are going to undoubtedly be more first-party PlayStation Studio games coming in the next year or two that will be PS5 exclusive. I don't imagine that just because Horizon, God of War, and Gran Turismo 7 are cross-gen, I don't imagine that means all their like upcoming slate for like the next year, is going to be cross-gen. I don't imagine that. But that's the one side of it. I get the PS5 owners. They want the best experience. Again, but the Sony side, like we were just saying, they can't just drop that install base, that giant install base.
Yeah.
They could, but that would definitely upset PS4 owners, because then it's like they're just being left behind entirely.
Yeah.
And in a day and age where PS5s are hard to make and hard to come by, it's not so easy for people to jump, just to jump into next gen so quickly and so easily. So leaving them behind like that for so long would not be the best business move. So I understand that entirely. And again, also making the money back too. They want to make the money back.
Yeah.
You gotta, drop it on that platform with a bunch of people, makes it more accessible to people. Completely understand. No, I understand also some people saying, well, when God of War comes out, there's going to be more PS5 owners. And that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that by the time God of War comes out, PS5 ownership will probably be, I would imagine maybe, I'm not a financial person at all. I'm just going to pull a number out of a hat here and say probably in the 30 millions, maybe, considering that they already surpassed the PS4's launch window sales, and that was at like 7 point something million.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine by the end of this year, they're probably close to 20 million. By the time we get to God of War next year, in the 30s, probably, I would imagine. So there will definitely be a bigger install base on PS5 by the time that game comes out, for sure.
Yeah.
So again, I understand why some people would want it to be just PS5 exclusive and everything. I totally get it. But it makes sense on both sides of the coin. And at the end of the day, like I said in my video, PS5 owners will have the best version of the game to play. Yeah. Like regardless, it will look the best, it'll run the best, it'll take advantage of, faster, the better hardware, being able to make it look better. The controller, the DualSense is going to offer, features that you're not going to be able to get on the PS4, whether it be the haptic vibrations, the adaptive triggers, doing some unique stuff. The PS5 will make the experience that much better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm 100%. Like, again, I'm with you. I can see it from both sides, where like I would love games that are exclusive to my Series X that are taking like full advantage of the hardware that it has, and it's not being held back by last gen that can't, do ray tracing or can't do super fast load times or whatever. But on the other hand, it's like I also understand that one, they can't just leave behind the player base they have, because even if PlayStation at that point, or PS5 specifically at that point, has 30 million players, that's still 80 million people that they are now not serving a game to, which doesn't seem fair, one. And two, seems like a stupid business decision that if you know a lot of those 80 million people are going to buy that game, why would you not release it for them as well and make a buttload more money? So like I can see it from both sides. I lean on the side of like just put it out on both platforms so that one, you make more money, but two, more people get to experience the game. But I I realized that I would also really like games like The Medium and Bright Memory Infinite, which are the only two we have so far that are exclusively made for the Series X and very much take advantage of the hardware.
Yeah. And that's not to say I'm not disappointed. I definitely am disappointed that God of War
Yeah.
is a cross-gen game because I was hoping it would not be. I wanted it to be the full-fledged next-gen God of War experience. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I wanted the much vaster open world. Well, not open world, but like much vaster environments, bigger areas, more detailed enemies, better enemies, things like that. I wanted like the full-fledged next-gen
Yeah.
experience. And that's not gonna happen now. It's probably not going to happen until the third God of War, whenever that comes out. Um, so I was disappointed. And again, I completely understand people's anger with this. And Sony definitely deserves a bit of criticism for saying the whole "we believe in generations" thing, and then kind of walking that back some a couple months later, and then almost a year later, kind of having to like have pie on their face on the whole statement with some of the
Yeah.
biggest games. Uh, I understand the criticism for that. I don't think like we need to keep dunking on them for that one specific line,
No.
but I understand that criticism, and I 100% believe that like they could have and should have been more clear in their marketing when it comes to this whole thing, because
Yeah.
I don't know if it was an official statement from Herman Hulst or someone in PlayStation, or if it was just an article by like someone who has insider knowledge. I can't remember exactly, but Horizon and God of War were always intended to be cross-gen games.
Mm.
So, like when God of War was announced last year, although it was announced during the PS5 showcase, it was always meant to be a cross-gen game. Gran Turismo 7 was meant to be PS5, but apparently the decision was made recently to make it a cross-gen game. So I can understand people feeling bamboozled, hoodwinked, lied to, having the rug pulled out from under their feet. I can understand that entirely. At the end of the day, though, I still think like these games are still going to be amazing games, fantastic games, great experiences, and all like that. And like they're still going to be awesome on PS5. And when we do get the full-fledged next-gen game for Horizon or God of War, it's going to be awesome. And I'm sure in the next year or so, we'll be hearing more about, well, I'm sure this year, but next year or so, we'll be getting more full-fledged next-gen exclusive PlayStation
Yeah.
games for that are whether it be internal first-party studios or from partners, that are in the PlayStation Studios umbrella,
Hmm.
making the experience, worth the money, worth the buy-in price. And like I said in the video, I'm sure next year we'll probably start hearing way less about cross-gen games because at that point it'll be 2022. We'll be 1 year removed from vaccines being out for the pandemic and things lightening up and everything. I'm sure production will be easier and in a better place by then. I'm sure next year is when we'll stop hearing about cross-gen games across the industry.
Yeah.
PlayStation, Microsoft, whatever Nintendo's doing. Who knows if the new Switch is going to be its own thing or just a mid-gen upgrade. And from other third-party developers, I'm sure we'll start hearing less and less about cross-gen games at that point.
Yeah. One thing I was going to mention is I find it very interesting that apparently the recent decision, well, it was a recent decision to make Gran Turismo 7 a cross-gen game because it is quite well known that like the thing you use to show off your hardware when it first launches is a racing game.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a reason that the Xbox One launched with Forza 7. Well, sorry, Forza 5. Um, because those are the games that you launch a console with because it shows off the capability of the hardware basically. So I'm very interesting that they recently chose to make that a cross-gen game.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I was intrigued too when I read that. Um, because I was just like, wow, that's a bit shocking. I figured if anyone was the race decision, I would have imagined it was God of War, not Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
But apparently it was Gran Turismo 7. Um, and again, like I think this will be the last thing I say on this. Going into all this, I don't know. I said this on Twitter. I know really nothing about game development. I'm not a game developer. I'm not in there. I don't know game developer friends or anything like that. I don't have someone on the inside to talk to about this stuff. But in my head, I've always figured and imagined that like games at this point in time probably have a current and next gen version available, like in production.
Yeah.
And that way, if you want to drop one, you can, or if you want to go with both of them, you can as well. You kind of read the room on the situation.
Yeah.
So that being the case for Horizon, not surprising. That being the case for God of War, it is a bit surprising because again, I thought it would have been a next gen exclusive, but also because of how big God of War was, I could see it also going both ways at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not too surprising to hear that it was already in development for PS4 and PS5. And, it's not like it's the PS5 version being ported down to be on
Yeah.
PS4. It's more like the PS4 version of these games is here and the PS5 versions are getting, I guess you could say, like better enhancements from whatever is from the basis on PS4. Again, these games will definitely on PS5 be held back by last gen hardware, 100%. I'm not saying they aren't, and it sucks that they are. But the behind the scenes works on it was not that surprising to me at all. Like with Resident Evil 8, that was first announced. Well, Village, I guess, is what it's technically called. But Village, we only heard about the next gen versions when it was first announced. It wasn't until recently that they said, "Oh yeah, it's coming to PS4 and Xbox One as well." Which people were wondering, like, is it coming there? Is it not? And hey, was that like a last minute decision? So, yeah, I don't think it's that big a deal. I think we'll be fine. I think this will be good. Our last big news story here, it's about Far Cry 6. And the I guess you could say controversy and conversation surrounding whether or not Far Cry 6 is or is not a political game. Now, Ubisoft they're no stranger to being in hot water for saying that their games are not political. They're no stranger to this. And recently, the same thing was said about Far Cry 6. Speaking to the gamer, the game's Far Cry 6's narrative director, pulling up his name right now, Navid Kavari. He talks to them about the game and the island, the world, and stuff like that. And he has said here that the game wasn't making like any political statements about Cuba itself. So I'm going to read what he says here in this interview. So he says here, quote, "The original inspiration was guerrilla warfare. And what is that guerrilla fantasy? Which is obviously tied to revolution. When you talk about guerrillas, you think of the guerrillas in the 1950s and 1960s. We actually went down there to speak to actual guerrilla fighters who fought back then, and we just really fell in love with their stories. But we also fell in love with the culture and people we met. When we came out of that, it wasn't that we felt we had to do Cuba. We realized it's a complicated island and our game doesn't want to make a political statement about what's happening in Cuba specifically. Beyond that, we're drawing inspiration from guerrilla movements around the world and throughout history. For us, it felt like doing the island of Yara would help us tell that story while being very open with our politics and inspiration." And then moving a bit farther down here, he says, "A revolution is complex, and the people you're going to engage with are also complex. I use this line of philosophy, which is that every character has their own heartbeat. You just have to find it. We have this melting pot of motivational complexity where we try to translate that into the gameplay and the story. So tonally, it sort of already existed. But for us, thematically, unifying that into the guerrilla fantasy felt pretty natural." End quote. So he said this in this interview. And of course, people across the internet started dogpiling on them saying, "What do you mean the game's not political? How is it not political?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Doesn't make any sense." Days later, literally just a couple days later, he posts an open letter on Ubisoft's website titled "The Politics of Far Cry 6." And I'm going to read this letter in full. So bear with me. It's a bit of a read, but I think it's important that we have the entire thing here read. That way we have the full context for what he says. You ready, Keiran?
Yeah.
All right. He says here, this is again, Navid Kavari, narrative director of Far Cry 6. He says here, quote, "Our story is political. A story about a modern revolution must be. There are hard, relevant discussions in Far Cry 6 about the conditions that lead to the rise of fascism in a nation, the cost of imperialism, forced labor, the need for free and fair elections, LGBTQ plus rights, and more within the context of Yara, a fictional island in the Caribbean. My goal was to empower our team to be fearless in the story we were telling, and we worked incredibly hard to do this over the last 5 years. We also tried to be very careful about how we approached our inspirations, which include Cuba, but also other countries around the world that have experienced political revolutions in their histories. In our approach, we made sure to seek creators and collaborators for our team who can speak personally to the history and cultures of the region we were inspired by. We also brought on experts and consultants to examine the game story multiple times over the course of the project to make sure it was being told with sensitivity. It is not for me to decide if we succeeded, but I can say we absolutely tried. The conversations and research done on the perspectives of those who fought revolutions in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and beyond are absolutely reflected in our story and characters. But if anyone is seeking a simplified, binary political statement, specifically on the current political climate in Cuba, they won't find it. I am from a family that has endured the consequences of revolution. I have debated revolution over the dinner table my entire life. I can only speak for myself, but it is a complex subject that should never be boiled down to one quote. What players will find is a story that's point of view attempts to capture the political complexity of a modern, present day revolution within a fictional context. We have attempted to tell a story with action, adventure, and heart, but that also isn't afraid to ask hard questions. Far Cry is a brand that in its DNA seeks to have mature, complex themes balanced with levity and humor. One doesn't exist without the other, and we have attempted to achieve this balance with care. My only hope is that we are willing to let the story speak for itself first before forming hard opinions on its political reflections. Thank you for reading. End quote. So, Kieran, they said earlier in the week they weren't making any specific political statements about Cuba. And now comes back saying, hey, the game is political. We like a game about this topic, this nature, is no way for it to not be political.
Yeah.
What is your stance on all this? On this game specifically right now, what's going on with it?
I mean, like you mentioned, Ubisoft certainly isn't any stranger to being in hot water for any number of things, really, but politics being one of them.
Right.
I don't think I can judge this game on its political stance until I have played it, because I don't know the entire, the entire context of their political stance in this game. I'm certainly not opposed to it being political. It's just if it's done in the right way. If they have actually brought in like consultants and people to look at the story of the game throughout development, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be, entirely appropriate. It just means that, they're not going to, they're hopefully not going to like massively offend anyone with the story that they're telling. And I think that, I think video games should be allowed to tell the story they want to tell, as long as they are not being unkind about it. I'll put it that way. As long as they are not as long as they're not on maliciously attacking one specific group of people for something. It's difficult for me to comment on, but the gist of what I feel in this game is until I play it, I don't really think I have the right to be like, no, this game shouldn't be political. You're making the wrong choices. You're not doing this properly. This is a bad game. You're offending so many people, because I can't comment on that because the game isn't out yet. I haven't played it. So as much as I don't mind politics in video games, I'm gonna have to play this before I'm like, no, you really messed up with this one. This is super bad, or like it's not great, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So when they said that this game wasn't political, everyone kind of jumped on them because they're saying, "What do you mean it's not political? It is political. It's a political game.
Yeah.
You're talking about a revolution in I guess you could say a fascist country, and it's taking obvious inspiration from a real world situation and all. It definitely is political.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Them coming out and saying, you know what, hey, this game is like it is a political game. Like it's touching
Yeah.
on political topics, and while we're not like while we are not saying we are not. Well, let me go back to his wording specifically because I don't want to like mess up the wording here.
Mm.
While he says here, anyone seeking a simplified binary political statement specifically on the current political climate in Cuba, they won't find it. While he's saying here, hey, we're not saying anything black and white about Cuba specifically with this game.
Yeah.
We're still there. It is still a political game. We're still making political statements, I guess, about different topics in the game. About, like he said at the start, the conditions that leads to the rise of fascism in the nation, cost of imperialism, forced labor, free and fair elections, LGBTQ rights, and other stuff like that. It's very good that he kind of was like, you know what? He kind of came out and said this after saying what they did before. And I think what he said before is I think he said what he says here is what he said before, but he's adding more context to what he said before. Because what he said before was like that thing weren't speaking specifically about Cuba. And then people were, like they kind of got on them for that. And he's like, you know what? He's like, the game is political. Which we got inspiration from Cuba and is clearly influenced by the situation in Cuba. We're not saying anything black and white about Cuba, but the topics that are happening in Cuba are touched on in this game and from different points of view and all like that. Which is good. That needed to be said. I mean, it's very clear. It's very obvious. And I guess we'll bring in the question of the episode with this conversation here, that being how we feel about politics in games. What do we expect from games in regard to politics? Do we like want or need or expect like games to make a direct commentary, a black and white point about politics in their games? Do we need or expect them just, have it be like more subtle observations, or, maybe not something that's like hammering the point down on your head, but like, like just, I guess, addressing it in a certain way. Like with how I mean, talk regardless of whether or not you think they did it good or not. The Last of Us 2, there is a trans character in the game, and the trans character they are kind of the subject of a lot of hate. I'm dancing around it a bit for story reasons, because I mean it's really spoilerific if I get too much more specific with it. But like it's not, the characters in the game don't really talk too much about the character being trans. There's a part where the character gets dead named. For those who don't know, being dead named is when a trans person, the name that they were given at birth is someone calls them that when that is not their name currently anymore. And it's something that, it's frowned upon. It's offensive in the trans community and all. So the trans character does get dead named by those that are trying to, inflict harm and pain on them for story reasons and all. There's reasons behind it. And that decision was, kind of, some people looked at that different ways and all in the game. And after it happens, the character says to who you're playing as, they say to them, hey, did you hear what they called me? And your character says, yeah, I did. And they're like, you want to talk about it? And your character says, do you want to talk about it? And then they say, no, not really. And then you guys just keep on moving, just like keep on going about your day. And like they kind of treat the whole trans thing in the game as being like, this is at least how I took it. I'm not trying to say this is how well it was done, but I took it as them addressing it as like, hey, they're just people. Trans people are people, and they can, deserve to just be themselves, be who they are, with no judgment, no anything against them. Again, whether or not you thought it was done well in the game, that's your prerogative. But I feel like that's one where it's like, it's a bit subtle in terms of how it's done. It's not like a hammer on the head, direct
Yeah.
commentary. It's I guess like a blend of the two. But from I guess Ubisoft games, what do we expect from them or games in general? And for me, I guess I'm it's tough for me to say because I've seen some people say all art is political. Whether you like it or not, all art is political in one way, shape, or form. Like, even if you try not to be political, that is being political.
Yeah.
And I understand that entirely. Um, I think, sometimes it is unavoidable, the politics in the game. And saying that a game is not being political is like really silly and kind of like stupid.
Yeah.
So I don't think like I don't know if they said it for Far Cry 5, but Far Cry 5, for example, it is very clearly like being very political.
Mm-hmm.
It's subject nature, like you have I I don't know if you'd say like white supremacists. I don't know if you would call them that in Far Cry
Kind
5,
of.
kind of sort of, but like, basically a whole religious cult in Far Cry 5
Yeah.
in the middle of America, middle of nowhere, just like slaughtering people who don't believe what they believe and like torturing them and everything.
Yeah.
Like, very clearly making a political statement on the current state of things in the US. Um, and then there's Watch Dogs Legion, where it might not be as overt as Far Cry 5, but Watch Dogs Legion, it's a game about London is now, it's I guess you could say it's a police state in a sense. It's been turned into a
Yeah.
police state, and the people of the country are rising up and revolting against this police state. You yourself are having a direct hand, are building this revolution to fight back against this police state. Saying a game like that is not political is kind of funny and silly. I don't know if it was said, but if they did say that, it's silly
Yeah.
because that's not true. You are deliberately making a statement about, hey, police states, authoritarian, totalitarian, whatever it may be, these are bad. This is not good. The brutality, police brutality here, all that stuff. You're making statements about it and about building up a revolution and stuff. And whether or not it's done well is a different story. But to have topics like that in your game and then say it's not political is silly. I think it's just like you're kind of lying to yourself you're lying to yourself and trying to lie to consumers so as to not offend people,
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone necessarily, well, I'm sure some people do, but I'm sure that there are some people who don't want or need them or expect them to make like strong political statements with their games that have very clear political settings and themes and all. But if it has the settings and themes of these political settings and themes and things, don't lie about it, and at least approach it. If you're going to approach it properly and appropriately. You get what I mean?
Yeah. My answer to this is it's gonna sound kind of vague, I think, but it depends on the game. Like I wouldn't expect a Viva Pinata game to suddenly talk about like the independence referendum between Scotland and England. Like it's not something I would expect it to talk about. But if your game, Far Cry games are always in some way, shape, or form political. Where like Far Cry 4, you have a dictator. Far Cry 5, you have this basically cult in the middle of America. In Far Cry 6, you have this situation with a dictator I think kind of based on Cuba. So like if your game is political, don't try and like dance around that. Don't be like, no. It's like that's not political. Like, no, it is. Like, don't try and be something you're not just to please somebody. Is basically like the entire social shift we've been going through for the last like decade, something like that. Like the same thing applies to video games. It's like if your game is political, don't say it isn't to try and make someone else happy, to try and not offend anyone else. Like I mean the way I see it, right? So I honestly, this is gonna sound bad, but I'll explain afterwards. I genuinely don't care if the character in your game is trans. I don't care if they're bi. I don't care if they are from like a fascist uprising. That when I say I don't care, I don't mean like, oh no, I don't care about that person. It's like if that's the story you want to tell, go for it. I'm not gonna be offended that the character is trans. I'm not gonna be offended that they're talking about like deep-seated racism or something like that. Like if that's a story you want to tell it, as long as you make sure that you are not going to offend people of that community by telling this story.
Right.
That's the main thing that I have with it is like if you're making a game that is about I'm just gonna pull like someone off the top of my head. Like if you're making a game about racism in America in the 50s, don't then like take the side of the Ku Klux Klan and like tell a game from that perspective.
And try and
That's
make it
not
pretty or anything.
yeah, exactly. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Don't if that is the direction you're going with your game, don't pretend like it's gonna be a nice game to play. Like I okay,
And if you're
I'll
doing a
round
game
this
like
out just
that, you
by
got to be like super careful about how you even deal with it.
exactly,
Like that's a
exactly.
game where like you need to make sure you have the proper people on your team there helping you make this game every step of the way. You need to be consulting the correct people every single step of the way to make sure that it is done properly and appropriately and correctly. And that
Yeah,
you're not, to make sure that you're not making it seem as if like the wrong side is okay and so on and
yeah,
so forth. And that like the right side is like portrayed in like a really bad light or anything.
yeah, exactly. It's like be very careful about it. Like even mentioning that point is that I'm trying to be very careful not to offend anyone because that's the last thing I want to do. But as an example, like don't take something like that and try and paint it in a good light because it isn't. It is a
Mhm.
very horrible thing that happened that if you are going to make a game about, which I really hope you don't, but if you do, don't try and paint it as something that is this super happy story that will be really fun to play and has these great mechanics. I'm like, no, just tell it for what it is. It's a horrible situation that happened to so many people, and move on. Don't try and downplay the severity of that situation.
Right. Or it's like again, some things shouldn't be made into games. And like
Exactly.
we kind of even talked about this when we talked about 6 Days in Fallujah, about
Yeah.
how that game probably shouldn't be made if they're not going to approach it the correct way or approach it properly and respectfully. And
Yeah.
then I think after we initially talked about it, more information came out. I think there was like a gameplay trailer showing gameplay of it. And again, it's we can't say anything definitive about a game until it's out, until people have played it and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. But from what's been seen, it doesn't look like the game is any different from a Call of Duty game. And it doesn't look
Yeah.
like it's doing what they say they want to do, which like tell this story of what happened there uh appropriately and properly. It doesn't look like it's doing that at all. Uh like it looks like if they wanted to do a game like that, they shouldn't have done it the way they did. Maybe
Yeah.
I brought this up the last time when we talked about it, but like the game This War Is Mine, or I think This War of Mine.
Mhm.
It's not a game that I've played, but I've seen
Me
stuff
neither.
of it, I've heard stuff of it. And if I'm right, like it's about there's a war going on and you're playing as the people trying to survive. You're not
Mhm.
playing as the people doing,
Yeah.
you're playing as just people trying to make it day by day. And a game, about 6 Days of Fallujah, that's not to say that you can't do one about it properly, but don't sit here and say, oh, we're not gonna talk about, we're not trying to be, I'm paraphrasing here what they said. We're not trying to make any statements about, any war crimes or things of that nature that happened in Fallujah,
Yeah.
we're not trying to do that. We're trying to, just give you this perspective. When for that topic, you can't just do that if you want it to be well received and, liked. That's not doing it
Mhm.
appropriate. So yeah, I I think, when it comes to politics and games, there's nothing it, there is nothing wrong with having politics in games
No.
as long as, they are as long as you are approaching your topic properly, acknowledging that your topic is political and that your game is political, and that
Yeah.
you are approaching it the correct way and dealing with it in a respectful, responsible way and all like that. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of, where I fall on this. And again, like I said, I'm not saying that I don't think every game that's like making that has politics in it, that's being political and all, needs to be making these grand statements
No.
or anything. But, that's where literary analysis and like real deep analysis of things comes in, where like little things in your game can be these political statements. You don't
Yeah.
need the characters looking you directly in the camera and saying racism is bad. We don't
Yeah.
need doesn't necessarily need to be like that. But again, just the way in which you deal with it, the way in which you handle it and approach it and respect it is really important when it comes to your games being political and all like that. So with
Yeah.
Far Cry 6, it it's good that they have addressed said, no, this game is political, the themes are political, we're dealing with it, we're dealing with these political themes and these things are talked about in the game. Whether or not we did it well is up to you. I'm not to say that we did it well, but I think we did the best that we could with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, when the game comes out later this year, we'll see how well they did. Um, I am still looking forward to the game, very much so.
Yeah,
Uh,
me too.
the story seems interesting. The world, the island of Yara seems interesting and fun. And yeah, that's those are my final thoughts on that. Kieran, do you have any final thoughts on Far Cry 6 and its themes and all like that?
Um, I don't think so. I think I've kind of said everything that I wanted to.
All right, fantastic then. All right, so now we'll talk about what we've been playing this week. And each of us has a fair amount of stuff to talk about, and two of us we share two of the same games. So here's how we're going to do this. I'll go first, and I'll talk about the two games I have that you don't have. Then you'll go, and you'll talk about the two games that I don't have, and then we'll come back to me to talk about the two games that we both share. That way, we can knock them both out at the same time.
Yeah.
All right. So first up, I've been playing Resident Evil 7 some more. I think last time I talked, where was I? Do you remember where I said I was last time we talked about it?
You said you were just over an hour, and I think you said
Okay.
you had just gotten to the dinner table.
Yeah. Okay. So it turns out that was actually like 35 minutes into the game. I thought I had played for an hour. I guess I hadn't. So I am now dealing with Marguerite. I'm on her boss fight. That
Mm.
is, if I'm to guess, I think I'm close to the 4 hour mark. So let me say this. The first bit in the house with Jack, it is, I don't know if I say the game, if just with Jack is nerve wracking. The whole game is a bit nerve wracking and intense. But when you're in the house and Jack is like following you around, there's a part where he was chasing me, and like when you're in the house, when you're sprinting, you don't sprint fast at all. Like your sprint is still slow. It's not that good. So like I'm like, oh shoot, I'm like shooting at him. And I'm like, all right, he's still coming at me. So I turn around and I start like slow sprinting, I guess, through the
Yeah.
house. And then next thing I know, I turn, I'm like, all right, let me see how close he is to me. Cause I know like he does a speed walk. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
my sprint is like nothing. So I'm like, okay. I turn around and then he's like directly in my face. I'm like, oh dear God, no. Like, oh dear God, no. Turn, I'm like, shoot and run, like, shoot and run, shoot and run. Keep going. So yeah, the first boss fight with him, I knew how to deal with him in the first boss fight because I've seen it a couple times before on the internet.
Yeah.
So I got through that pretty quickly, pretty easily. I didn't realize that was the first boss fight with him though. So when he popped back up shortly after, I was like, oh no, no, sir, no, I don't like this. I don't like this. Um, the second boss fight against him was annoying. And again, it's because of the movement in the game. Like your your movement is sluggish and slow, purposely
Yeah.
so, because of this it's Resident Evil survival horror, I guess,
Yeah.
to make it so it's more intense. But the second boss fight against him, it's annoying. The movement makes it a bit more difficult. It took me a couple tries to get through it, but got through his boss fight. The molded are like these tall, black, weird venom looking type enemies.
Mm,
Um, they are they're not I mean, when you first see them, they're creepy. They are tough to kill. Um, but they're interesting. They're interesting to come across and fight against. Mainly because their environments they're in, like just their presence and like the mold that they leave around, just like it's unsettling, it's disturbing.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, got through that portion of the game, made it out to the yard, and then like the yard is like a safe haven of sorts. You had a little like trailer out there and everything, so it's like a safe haven.
Mm,
Then made it start dealing with Marguerite, the mom, and her section of the game has actually been much easier than the first section with Jack inside the house. And I think it's because I think it's maybe because it's like I'm used to the game now at this point. Um,
yeah.
but her section not only is it easier, it's shorter. I feel like it's shorter than Jack's section of the game. Um, because like there's really not much to do in her area. Um, but dealing with her and having her section is more so annoying than anything because of like the bugs and the wasps that are constantly like in
Mm.
the area. So like they will just like they can like attack you and like and sting you and stuff. And it's just like get off. You're annoying me. You're annoying me. You're hurting me slowly and stuff. It's very annoying. Um, but I am on her boss fight now. I actually could have beat her boss fight the other day when I first tried it. I tried it twice, and the second time I was like, "All right, you're annoying." And I was like, "Is there something I'm missing for this fight?" Looked up a guide. I'm not missing anything. It's just she's a bit of an annoying boss fight because she has this
Mm.
one move that when she does it, she takes your health like day to basically none, to almost none. And I'm just like, okay, like you do this, and I gotta use up my healing stuff, and I got no healing stuff left now. So uh her she also looks really creepy during her boss fight. Like it's just like, oh dear God, you look disgusting. You look so disgusting. Uh so I could have beat her boss fight. I only tried it twice, looked at the guide and said, all right, I'm not missing anything. You're just annoying. I will do you another day. So
Yeah.
uh I still got some stuff to do with that game. I think I make a good progress though, because like I said, I think I'm close to like 4 hours into the game and I'm doing her boss fight. And after this, I know there's one, maybe two other family members I have to deal with, and there's another whole section of the game. I think I make a good progress on it. Uh, I don't think I'll be done with it by the next show. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. But I'm making good progress on that.
Yeah.
And then the other game I started, which has been on my backlog for a while, and I wanted to start it earlier this year, but it got put off for reasons. Near Automata. I first played the demo of this game before the game even came out in 2017. And I was like, it's fine. But it didn't really catch me. Um, and over the years, I've seen so many people talk about it, talk about how it's so great and everything, made me kind of want to give it a try again. So I started playing it again this week. And the things that kind of put me off the game when I first played the demo are they are things that intrigue me now. And I actually really like
Mm.
them. I find them
Yeah.
endearing because it's a game, it's made by Platinum Games. So it has, the Platinum Games, nice, stylish, easy, like flowing combat and all like that. It's good, it's fun.
Yeah.
But it also has like you have this little robot drone with you where if you just hold R1, it constantly shoots. And so kind of like a bullet hell type of game in a sense. And
Okay.
like the game does it just constantly, at least at the beginning of the game and the first section, it constantly like is changing the gameplay on you. So like it starts off and you're in like you're like flying mech and it's like a top down perspective, like old school bullet hell shooter games and all.
Yeah.
And then it changes again where it's still top down, but then you have the 3D movement so you can move around and it's like a twin stick bullet
Mhm.
hell type shooter then. then it changes again, and you end up like, third person hand to hand combat platinum style. And then like there are parts where it'll be like that, but then the camera will change, and then it'll be a 2D perspective. And it's 2D perspective, and then you're fighting side to side with your weapon and everything like
Mm.
that. And then it'll go back to 3D, and you'll run, and then you get to an area, and the camera will go over top. It'll be overhead now. It's like an overhead thing, and you're still doing your hand-to-hand combat, but you also have your thing, your little pod that you can shoot the bullets with and everything like that. And
Yeah.
like back then I was like, it was all weird. It's all weird. It's just like so many different. I'm not jiving with it. But now I'm playing it. I'm like, yo, this is fun. Like I'm really jiving with it. It's cool. I like it. So I played for a couple hours. I am about, I think, 5-ish hours into it. The last thing I did was, for those who have played the game, you'll know what I mean. I have just finished the machine theme park. There's a theme park in the game. You get to it, and like there's all these machines in the theme park. And up to this point, whenever you see the machines, they're enemies. The machines are bad. You get here, the machines are like, they're like just not hurting you. They're harmless. They're all
Hmm.
dressed up like, in like theme park carnival outfits and stuff. They're just like walking around. It's like, yeah, throwing confetti in the air and stuff, shooting balloons into the air. It's just like you get there, it's just like so weird. You're like, okay, this is bizarre. And then you're walking through, and at one point you come across a tank, and like they drive through with the tank, and the tank is shooting out balloons and stuff. And your partner 9S, he's like, hey, we should destroy them right now because we don't want to have to deal with this later on when we're and have it possibly go bad on us. And then
Yeah.
you have a choice of actually attacking it. I chose not to. I was like, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I like, they're not hurting me. If there's a problem
Yeah.
later on, I'll deal with it then, but I don't want to fight them. So then you end up like, you get on like a roller coaster, and the roller coaster takes you all around, and it's like it does a 2D perspective here. Then you're fighting things that come around you on the roller coaster, and then you end up doing a big boss fight and stuff. Boss fight's cool, and then you finish the boss fight and you leave, and then they're like, thank you, you saved us, you freed us from the machine that was in there. And it's just like, I just freed the machine from the other machine. Okay, cool. So then um if you follow one of them, it takes you to the next area of the game, which is a machine village, like in these trees. So I
Mm.
just got there. I stopped there. It's funny because you get there, and as you approach, you see all the machines like standing on around their village, just waving white flags. I was on the phone with my girlfriend. I was like, wow, it's funny. They're all waving white flags. She's like, what? She's like, oh, yeah, they're surrendering. I was like, I think so. So then I went up and I talked to a couple of them. They're like, we surrender. We don't want to fight you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you guys are cool. I like you. So the game's interesting. It's really weird. It's so bizarre. But I like it. I like the story that's been presented so far. The world is really, it's like dour and depressing in a sense, because like Earth's been
Yeah.
destroyed. Earth's been like destroyed and like messed up by these machines that are alien invaders, that are the machines you fight in the game, from what I know so far. And so like a bunch of people on the Earth have like left the planet, and now like they send androids down to the planet to like try and save it and make it so that humans can come back. You play as some of
Yeah.
the androids. Um, but the world's cool, the story's cool, the music is, oh my god, music's great. Love the music in this game. So yeah, those are two of the games I've been playing this week. I got two more, but we'll talk about those after Kieran talks about two of his.
Yeah. Just really quick. I've been meaning to play Nier Automata for the longest time because it is. I'm pretty sure it's on Game Pass.
Mhm.
So I think I am going to start that at some point soon because I haven't looked at a lot for that game, but from what I've heard really good things about it. It definitely intrigues me.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a fun game. It's cool so far.
my first one is a game I talked about on episode 8, I think. Episode 9. Um, which was Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I finished Mass Effect 1 on the Sunday after the Legendary Edition came out.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
hun, um, I 100%ed it. So I've done everything on every planet. What okay, I haven't 100%ed it because I haven't gotten every achievement, but the only achievements that I'm missing are the ones where it's like use this ability 25 times, use this ability 25 times.
Yeah.
Because I always forgot I had them, so I just never used them. So I'll go back and get those at some point. I really, really enjoyed Mass Effect 1. It's a really good game.
Nice.
I mean I've said this before. I've played all of the Mass Effect games except one before. I've played 2 and 3 like for maybe like an hour and a half to 2 hours each when they came out.
Mhm.
And then just I didn't vibe with them. I didn't enjoy them. Like that didn't seem like my kind of game. But now that I'm really, really enjoying it. I've played about an hour and a half to 2 hours, I think, of Mass Effect 2. Um I have just for people who have played Mass Effect 2, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. I've I've just found Archangel. Is all I'll say for that. But um no, really, really enjoyed Mass Effect 1. It's a really good game. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are parts about it I don't like, but overall I would definitely recommend anyone play that game. It's real, real good. And I'm really I wasn't as excited as I am now to find out what is like next for Mass Effect, which we talked about on the E3 one. I'm sure we'll find out something at E3 this year.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, it's really, really enjoyed Mass Effect 1. Looking forward to playing through Mass Effect 2, which I have been told by Luke is like one of, well, maybe not one of the best games ever made, but a very, very, very good game. Um, and then I'll move on to 3 after that. But yeah, super enjoying it.
Nice. I'm looking forward to playing
Um,
them eventually when I jump into the Legendary Edition some point. Hopefully this year.
yeah, there's too many games.
Too many, and the backlog's long, and games
Yeah,
coming up and stuff. It's a lot.
yeah. Well, speaking of backlog, I'm also currently playing a game that I have played many times because it is my favorite game ever. Which I haven't really talked about in the podcast actually, because like my favorite game always was switching between Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Hollow Knight because they are both very, very, very good games.
Mhm.
I've been thinking about it a lot recently. I'm like, no, honestly, I think Hollow Knight is probably out of the two the one I prefer more.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been playing Hollow Knight again, and like every time I play that game, like it is just such a masterpiece of a video game. I'm 100% 10 out of 10. I cannot fault that game. It's like story is very good. It has a very, very heavy focus on exploration. Like there's no like quest markers, there's no go here. It's literally wander around until you find something like that will progress the game. And then, oh, you did that? Okay, now wander around again for like 3 hours to find the next thing that's going to progress the game. It's it's not typically a game I go for. Like I like games that are like, yeah, go here, do this thing, kill this guy.
Yeah.
But there's Hollow Knight is just it's one, the art style is incredible. I mentioned this in my like top 5 Game Pass games because this was number one. Um, like although like the art style is like mostly like black and white, there are points that you'll get like purples or oranges or greens and whatever. Like stunning art style that like I very, very often listen to the soundtrack for Hollow Knight just like while I'm driving, while I'm doing stuff about the house. Like while I edit the podcast, I usually have the Hollow Knight soundtrack on behind me.
Oh
um
wow.
like just quiet music in the background just to kind of provide some background noise while I do editing things. But yeah, stunning soundtrack, stunning art style, very good story. The combat is superb. Like everything about this game is really, really good. I think my playthrough this time I'm like maybe 9 or 10 hours in. I'm just no, I'm not going to say that because you haven't played it, but I'm fighting somebody I fought before. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, no, yeah, 100%. I am so excited for you to play Hollow Knight. It's such a good game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your reaction when I do start playing it. That and Ori. Whenever I start playing either one of those
Hmm.
games, I'm looking forward to the reaction from you. I'm sure it's gonna be
Yeah.
just like, what? What?
I'm dreading that you're gonna be like, yeah, I hated Hollow Knight. I'm like, no, why?
I'm dreading that too, especially after what you just said about like, yeah, just those hours of wandering and then like, oh, there's this, and then wander some more, and then oh, there's this. I'm hoping it's enjoyable. I always go to games
It
with open
is.
mind though. So we'll see. We'll see when I eventually start that game, how I
Yeah.
fall on it. So now we'll talk about these two games that the both of us share. And we'll start with Knockout City. I talked about this game when I first did the beta in April. And I did a video preview on it. If you have not seen it, go check it out. The game's out there now, so the reviews out there. But everything I said in that preview still applies to the game now. This game is so freaking fun. This game is so much
Yeah.
fun. I love it. And after we recorded our E3 episode, because no, the game came out the 21st. And so I didn't get to play it until when did I get to play it? I forgot when I got to play it. Sometime after. Regardless, when I did play it, I played that game all day long. Like again, I was like, all right, I'll just play for like an hour or two. It ended up that being the only game I played. I have hit rank 60 something on the street rank. I am gold tier in league. I'm gold tier in league play for 3v3. Yeah, I love this game. This game is so much fun. What's new in this that wasn't in the beta is the multi-ball that as a special ball that wasn't in the beta.
Yeah.
That's cool. Then there are two new maps. There is the Galaxy Burger map. That one wasn't in the beta. It's like a restaurant in the middle. And like it's kind of space themed after space and all like that. That wasn't in the beta. And there's a train map that wasn't in the beta. That I've had to like warm up to those two maps. I like the Galaxy Burger map more than I like the train map. I think it I'm not sure what is about the train map. I'm just not the biggest fan of it, but it's still a good map regardless.
Yeah.
And then they added some new modes. So there's a mode, a ball up brawl, where there are no balls on the map. It's a 4v4 mode. There's no balls. So you have to rely on your teammates to be like the ball and toss them and everything. I played it for a bit. It's cool. I definitely prefer more so I prefer any other mode where I guess like pick up a ball myself and toss it if I wanted to. Because what tends to happen in that mode is that the person that your teammates just end up really just charging you up and tossing you high up in the air for the explosive knockout, as opposed to doing the normal throw, which is what I see people do a lot, and not just that mode, but any mode. Whenever like a teammate is holding you or you're holding a teammate, people tend to just charge them up and then toss them in the air, which is honestly the best bet to go with, because if you just toss a teammate at a person normally, they could be caught and then like tossed out and die, or toss back at you for a one-hit KO. But when you're doing a mode where where the only balls are your teammates, and that is like the only way, or the way that people typically end up using it ends up getting old and annoying and boring pretty quickly. So I only played a few matches of that. But there was another mode they added, Party Team KO, which basically, instead of normal balls on the map, the only balls on the map are special balls. Sometimes it'll be all of one specific type of special ball, or it'll be every special ball is on the map.
Yeah.
That can be fun. Although, again, that can also be very boring and annoying when the only special ball is the sniper ball. Because whenever people have the sniper ball, they just sit from a distance and just charge it up and toss it from a distance. I mean, that's how the ball is meant to be used. But when you have everyone in the match doing that, it becomes boring. It's like, I gotta like work my way around this to try, and it becomes annoying and boring. Regardless, though, as I said, I'm loving this game, loving it so much, and I'm so happy to see that it's getting great reviews and so many people are on board and loving it. It's such a great game. I knew, like I said in my preview, at the very end, I said, Velen Studios has a sleeper hit on their hands, and it turned out to be a sleeper. No one was expecting this game to be as good as it was, and I knew when I played that beta that it was going to be a hit, and I was so happy to see that it is.
Yeah, I mean, you've played far more than I have. I've played one game of Knockout City. I've done a few of the tutorials. I think I've done the first three,
Mm,
um, and then I've played one game and admittedly lost that game, but I had a lot of fun playing it.
yeah.
Um, I was the victim of the cage ball quite a few times.
Mm.
Um, where like I was they attempted to throw me off the map, but I glided back on and then immediately got killed. Um, no, I mean it's definitely a fun game. I'm definitely going to be playing more of it. I really like how each map has like a unique thing. How
Yes.
like the tutorial level I played on was the one where you use the glider and you glide faster when you're in the wind.
Yeah.
And then the second one was the one with the moving platforms. I can't remember what the third one was. It was like a big roundabout, I think.
Oh,
Um,
with the cars and everything.
yeah. Um, those are the only three maps I've played on. Sorry, no, I think there's a fourth one. There's one. I think the train one is the one that I played my actual match on.
Okay.
There's like a drop down in the middle, then you like with a purple
Yeah,
ring.
that's the train one.
Yeah, yeah. Um, no, really enjoying the game actually. Like I said, I'm definitely gonna be playing it more, and it's. I agree. They definitely have a sleeper hit that's on their hands that I think is starting to wake up.
Yep. Yep. Couple tips for people, including you. Um, One, you can roll under the train on that
Oh, I
map.
didn't know that.
Yes, if you are a ball, there are on the map wherever like the train can go by, there are little declines where if you are a ball,
Mm,
if you roll down the decline, you can roll under the train. So take advantage of that. If you
yeah.
have not already, take advantage of it. I found out one time just by complete accident. I was like,
Hmm.
oh shoot, I can do that. That's cool. Um, I think you could also roll onto the bounce pad to then go under the train if it's right above you, if you're
Hmm.
careful. I did it one time, but like touching the train will automatically kill you. So you have to be very careful if you try and do that.
Yeah.
Um, Another tip, if someone tosses you in the air, like as a for the ultra KO, if there is a bounce pad by you, one of the tutorials teaches you this. I didn't know until I did the tutorial because it wasn't in the beta. You can bounce on the bounce pads. Now,
Oh,
bouncing
okay.
on the bounce pads from the ultra KO hit, each bounce has you go up lower in the air. You don't go as high,
Yeah.
but it's something you can do. Another tip: passing the teammates. Pass the teammates. Super key because it's super clutch because everything you do in the game always benefits you or your teammates. So, like if you have a ball in your hand and you toss it to your teammate, it automatically charges it up for them. So when they toss
Yeah.
it, it's better. If both of you have balls in your hands, when you pass to each other, your ball comes right back to you charged up. So
Mm,
what you'll see a lot of people do and what I do is when I'm with my teammates, I just we'll just do a bunch of passing backs back and forth to each other just to keep the ball charged up some
yeah.
until we see an enemy and then just toss it. So that's another tip for you. Another tip, real quick. I think this will be just the last tip I toss out there. If a teammate gets caught in a cage ball, you do not need to toss it at the enemy. Something that you can do and something that I recommend you do. If a teammate gets caught in a cage ball, you have them in your hand, toss them away from the fight. Because if you toss them at an enemy, they might get caught. And if they
Yeah.
get caught, then they can easily be taken out or have you get taken out. If you're in the midst of the fight and you have an enemy as an if you have a teammate in a cage ball, toss them away from the fight. That way, no one's near them and they can just like safely come back. I've
Yeah.
done that a couple times, like just like nope, just toss them in the air, just toss them in the air far away, and then I'm like, you'll be safe. You'll come back when you come back. You're good. I don't want anything to happen to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, couple tips for people out there if they didn't know about them, if they haven't even thought about them. Couple things to keep in mind. And the final game that the two of us played is the Scarlet Nexus demo. Scarlet Nexus, for those who have not played the demo, it's a cool game. It's from Bandai Namco, and it's anime as all can be. It is
Yeah.
anime as all can be,
Hmm.
from like art style to a story. It's crazy, but the game's a lot of fun. So like you see, you have two different characters. You have the guy Yuito, and each of them has their own story. To be honest, I don't remember what either of the stories were.
No, no.
But like he have Yuito, and he has like his own little katana sword that he has for more close combat. And then you have Kasane, who uses daggers for more like distance combat and all. But they both each have like psychokinesis abilities that they can use and make use of. And like when you start the demo, you choose who you want to do, but each of them, like the basic layout of the demos is the same. You do the same tutorial with each of them. Their missions are different, but their missions end the same way. So like you see the combat, the combat, it's like fast and flashy, and you have the psychokinesis abilities that you can do. So when you hold like right trigger, the purple bar that's charging up on the bottom, it does grabs some random object in the area and just tosses it at an enemy. And it charges up with like over time, or with your triangle special moves that you can do, charges it up much faster. And like as I played through the game, like it took me a bit to actually get better. So like all my Yuito footage is like me kind of like getting to grips with the combat. But once I did, I was like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. What'd you think of it, Keiran?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It takes a little bit to get used to, especially because I don't play JRPGs. They are not my kind of game. So this is definitely something that I like. The game interested me from when they announced it, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna pick this up. Like it's a JRPG. I don't like those. But I played it. That's definitely changed. But no, the combat's super fun. I exclusively played as the woman. I can't remember her name.
Kasane.
Yes, Kasane. I haven't played as the guy yet. The same thing that I have issue with like other JRPGs kind of applies here, where like there are so many things to keep track of.
Yeah.
So many things. Like I went into the menus to like, just look at them. And the first thing they greeted me was like select gear for every single character. Every single character has like 4 or 5 things you can customize with their weapon. It's a lot to manage, which is like the main thing I don't particularly like with JRPGs.
Like I end up showing that up here, like on the in the footage, like where I am right now, it's showing the skill tree
brain map.
Yeah, the brain map and all. And again, because of the demo, I didn't really mess around with it too much, but I saw like the potential for like the depth to be there and everything. But like you were saying, when you go over to the equipment and everything, you see that there's layers to it, like with each character and everything. I was like, okay, I see. Like I was gonna mess around with this some. I was like, if I do that now in this demo, I'm gonna be just lost. So I'll say that when I actually get to the actual full game and stuff. But there's definitely layers and stuff there. It's so cool. It's so cool in my eyes.
Yeah, no, like I'll kind of get back to the question you asked. I really, really enjoyed the combat, especially with like the mix of like regular game combat where like you're up close and you're doing stuff, or you're like using abilities from a distance, then using the different people on your team for different things. Like I forget his name, but if you hold on Xbox, at least if you hold right trigger and press either A, X, B, or Y, you'll get like different you'll get to use the different abilities of the people on your team. So there's one that gives you like electric powers, which I used quite a lot when I was fighting people, or one that will like make you invisible to people so that you can get up and like hit their critical spot. Like it's really, really interesting. And then on top of that, you have quick time events for different people in your team where like you hit on Xbox, it's Y and B. Yeah. You hit Y and B and they'll come and do this like super quick cool move or finisher. Yeah. And then like when you're like hitting an enemy, if you get into low health, you hit LT and then you do an awesome finisher. It's really, really good. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like you've seen some of that here. Like this right here, he's doing a little finisher on the enemy and all. And with Yuito, his teammates have different abilities from Kasane. So for him, the circle button, which would be B for you, it's pyrokinesis. So like then his moves are inflamed and he's doing more damage on some of the plant enemies. Here, I just used one of his guys' abilities, which basically it makes you not invulnerable for a bit, but like you take less damage over time from attacks. So like it's good.
Yeah.
This enemy as you're seeing here. One of his teammates has not invisibility, teleportation. So like you can use that to like get through obstacles in the environment and all like that. It's super cool. Which I was like, once I started like really mixing them up in combat, I was like, oh, this is so much fun. This is really cool. And like here, I'm starting to use Kasane now. And I found Kasane to be, I think I found her to be more fun than Yuito. Maybe just because like at this point I was more comfortable with the gameplay.
Yeah.
So like the way her moves work with the distance fighting is really cool and flashy. And her teammate abilities, I think they were more useful for combat. So like the electricity, and this is like, you know, what we were talking about, we was talking about before, how your teammates can just like come on in and do an ability or
Yeah.
move. But yeah, like using the electricity moves a whole lot against the enemies and all. Kasane, again, she has one where like she slows down time a bit, and you kind of have to use that against enemies that are super fast that you can't get normally. So like you slow down time to hit them, and then after you hit them, you can like go back to normal and like stop using it whenever you want to get the enemies back. You know, just take them out while you can before your energy runs out. And it's like, it's really cool. And I felt like a heavy Platinum Games influence from the combat. Like it really felt like Platinum had a hand in the combat here. I don't know if they did, but it was really cool and fluid and flashy, and I loved it. Like I said though, the story is just like it is anime as all can be. Like if you like anime, then like you'll probably be in on the ride for this story. If you're not really an anime person, you'll be like, some of this is stupid. Go on for the ride. And I'm not like, I like anime. I love anime. But I was like, you know what? When I play this game, like the story's just gonna be like taking a back seat to things, because like the enemies are called others. They're like, oh yeah, there's a major other over there. There's this other. There's that other. And like some of the story details are just like so stupid. Just like, like for example, the characters, they all have special abilities and stuff, but like some of them are like really old, but you wouldn't know that. They don't look it because they take this like medicine or drug or whatever that makes them like not age, so that they don't age out and like lose their abilities. So like some of the characters, like one of the characters is like your lieutenant or whatever, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, we call each other by our first names, you know, to strengthen our bonds. Besides, none of us look our age anyway. And when you read the details, it's like, okay, so this is just an excuse to like make a bunch of young anime-looking characters for you as your main characters in the game.
Yeah,
fine, is what it is. It's a silly reason. It's stupid, but you know what? I'm along for the ride. Yeah, this game is awesome. Kasane was a whole lot of fun to play as. She's just really cool. I don't know if I'll get this game at launch, but I just might. Like, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm really not a JRPG person. I definitely not the kind of games I go for, but I'm probably gonna pick this up because I did really enjoy it. I will say, I kind of like the look of Yuito more than Kasane.
His design, like the combat with him.
The combat with him. Not that I didn't like Kasane's combat. I kind of like the look of the abilities of his team more, and I think I prefer the katana to the daggers. But the boss fight we're watching now, actually, I stopped playing the demo here because I got kind of frustrated because I really hope this is something that's like maybe like a bug in the demo or not quite finished yet, but the dodging in this game doesn't really work for me. Like because like I'll be attacking and then I'll press dodge, but it won't dodge. It'll just stay where I am and I'll get hit with an attack. So I died during this boss fight because I'm dodging. I don't know why this isn't working because I'm pressing the dodge button. I don't know if it's because I'm in the middle of an attack when I'm trying to dodge, but like I got kind of frustrated that it wasn't dodging when I was telling it to. So I exit out the game here, so I didn't get past this boss fight.
Gotcha.
But I'm definitely going to be going back to try it again.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I didn't have any problems with the dodging. Again, it just with my gameplay with Kasane, it's better. Like, because at this point, I had already understood how the game works and the combat works
Yeah.
and all, and it was so smooth. So like, this boss fight is the boss fight with Yuito is the exact same boss fight with Kasane. It's just a different environment that it takes place in.
Oh, okay.
So like I would like, since I knew kind of how the boss fight worked and all, like it was way easier for me to get through and handle and all and stuff like that. So I think that's part of why I like Kasane more. I feel like maybe if I went back to Yuito with like my experience after beating the game, then I would probably like him more and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely do want to get this game. It's really cool. I probably will not give a lick of caring about the story. Or I'll care about the story, but just be like, I'm just going along for the ride at this point is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems cool. It seems fun. Definitely try the Yuito stuff out. Let me know what you think of it.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, after seeing that gameplay, I'm definitely gonna go back and play as him.
But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this week's episode of the Play to Win podcast. I think we had some good conversations this week, some meaty conversations. So yeah, follow us over here on Twitter and Instagram as Play to Win Game. Again, for updates on the show, other little random things that we post, just follow us over there and stuff. Subscribe to us here on Twitter. I mean, not on Twitter. What am I saying? I just said Twitter. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. Turn on notifications. Go check out all our videos. Do all that stuff. Share the show with everybody, with other people that you think would like it. Spread the love. Remember that Keiran and possibly me as well, schedule willing, Keiran's going to be co-streaming some of the main events for E3 2021. Yep. So he's going to work out a schedule for how he's going to do that. And he'll post that over on Twitter and Instagram. That way everybody can be aware of what it's going to be like. But follow him, follow us really, Play to Win, over on Twitch TV /Play to Win Game. And I think that's all we got to really plug, man. I think that's it. Keiran, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Badlynet, BADLYNET, one word.
Fantastic. And you can find me over on Twitter at Tyler Miller 2496. We both tweet cool stuff. Keiran's still going on with the Micro Center. There you go. I was about to say Knockout Center. I was like, that's not the name. Micro Center with the Micro Center Crusade. Help him out with that, please and thank you.
I think today will be day 110.
Dude, that's a long time.
Nope, sorry, 111.
That's still a long time, regardless. But yes, follow us over there on social medias, chat with us, all that good stuff. With all that being said, though, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. We'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.
See you later.